Yogah Karmasu Kaushalam.
Hello students, I am Dr. Rinki Menon, Assistant Professor presently working at Sri Narayana College of Commerce, Gujarat University. Today, I would be delivering a lecture in the subject of business communication. Today, we shall study the subject of business communication. The course objective. The course aims to make students understand the basic concepts of business communication and develop conceptual clarity and logical skills so that they can use them. The course content. The course comprises of various concepts of communication. In today's lecture, we shall discuss about the use of non-verbal communication. Now, let's begin with today's module that we shall cover. Introduction. The word non-verbal communication means communication not involving speech or words. By non-verbal communication, we mean all communication that involves neither written or spoken words but occurs without the use of words. Thus, this is the wordless message received through the medium of gestures, signs, body movements, facial expressions, tone of voice, color, time, space, style of writing, and choice of words. Animals communicate their deepest feelings through gestures, cries, whistling, cooing, and many other signals known to each other. It is we human beings who have evolved the language of words to convey our thoughts in a structured manner. Still, many a times we tend to convey many of our feelings by smiling, patting, frowning, shouting, or other such wordless clues. At other times, we also lace our words with different tones, gestures, and facial expressions to give a deeper meaning to our words. The verbal and non-verbal messages together form the total meaning of the message communicated. There is something said and something implied with every message communicated. For a full understanding of the message, we should know what has been communicated through words and without them. Now, let us take an understanding of characteristics of non-verbal communication. First, it is instinctive in nature. Non-verbal communication is quite instinctive in nature. That is, it indicates the attitude, instincts, and the feeling of the speaker. Second, it is less conscious. Words are spoken after due thinking and with conscious efforts. Depending on the situation, we have to make a more or less conscious efforts in these choice of words. The non-verbal part of communication, on the other hand, is less deliberate and conscious, as most of the expressions, gestures, etc. included in non-verbal communications are mostly unconsciously expressed, as the speaker may not be even aware of these signs. Third characteristics, it is subtle in nature. Spoken and written words are quite obvious and easy to see, listen and understand, whereas non-verbal communication is very subtle and needs skills to be understood and expressed. Fourth characteristics, it is complementary to verbal communication. Non-verbal communication does not stand alone on its own, and neither does it completely substitute the communication with words. It complements verbal communication and makes it more effective. As an example, when we watch a movie, the dialogues are made more impressive by the way they are delivered, with the modulation in voice, other gestures and signals. The subconscious mind works on the past experiences, hopes and fears. In being apprehensive ahead of non-verbal communication, it is easy for our subconscious mind to focus on the downbeat outcomes and thereby magnify your concerns. In such situations, you need to be aware of your body language, space language, time language, physical layout and para-language from the moment you stand up until the presentation is completed. The importance of positive eye contact and the correct use of posture and hand movements to accompany your presentation cannot be overstated. Now, let us take a look at the classification of non-verbal communication. Exchange of messages without words which take place between two parties fall within the category of non-verbal communication. It includes all wordless signs, symbols, gestures, facial expressions, colors, setting of the surroundings, time, and so on. The non-verbal communication can be classified into the following categories. The first is kinesics, body language. Second is proxemics, space language. The third is time language. Fourth is paralanguage. And the fifth is sign language. Now, let us take a look at these. Starting with the first one, that is kinesics or the body language. The kinesics literally means body movements. Bodily movements, gestures and body language is an important factor, especially in the face-to-face communication, as here the message is communicated by a number of factors like facial expressions, eye movements, gestures. Body language is a reflection of thought, feelings and position. All bodily movements, postures, gestures, etc. are guided by our thoughts, processes and emotions, etc. By nodding our head, blinking our eyes, waving our hands, shrugging our shoulders and various other ways, we send our signals and messages that often speak louder than the words. That is why this area of enquiry has been called body language. Just as a language uses set of symbols to convey the meaning, our body consciously as well as unconsciously or instinctively carries messages, attitudes, status, relationships, moods, warmth or indifference, positive or negative feelings and so on. We have, however, to infer these meanings from the body symbols. We look for these symbols in the face and eyes, gestures, postures and physical appearance, each of which has its own functions. Importance of body language. Regarding the importance of body language, management consultant Nancy Austin says, when people don't know whether to believe that they are hearing or what they are seeing, they go with the body language. It tells the truth. You can play fast and loose with words, but it's much more difficult to do that with the gestures. Psychologist Paul Ekman says, we talk with our vocal cords, but we communicate with our facial expressions, our tone of voice, our whole body. It has been observed that most of the non-verbal communication at workplace centers on a single theme, that is power, and power gives one status consciousness. One careful observation, in a meeting we can look around and see who has the highest status. In every species and society, those who are in control try to appear large, strong and fearless. Professor Albert Mehrabian has very aptly illustrated this point by giving the example of office-soldier relationship in army. He says, status manifests itself subtly in a relaxed posture and way of interacting. The classic example is the soldier standing at attention in the presence of a superior officer. His body is extremely tense and in perfect symmetry, signs of subversiveness. Almost the same situation prevails in any other organization when a junior worker has to appear in the presence of a senior executive or officer. It is their status and role relationship that is reflected in this way. Kinesics or body language includes facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, head, body shape and the posture, and appearances. Facial expressions. A popular saying goes like this: the face is the index of the heart. Whatever we feel deep within ourselves is at the first once reflected in the face. It is very important in any face-to-face communication event. We convey so much without speaking a word. For example, let us consider the facial expressions generally associated with happiness, surprise, fear, anger, sadness, bewilderment, astonishment, and contentment. Let us also consider a smile, different kinds of smile, a frown, corners of the lips, the position of the eyebrows, the cheeks, whether drawn up or back or dropping, the jaw, nose or the nostrils, and the chin. We can easily mark all the signals sent through these parts of the face by others and observe our own expression by looking at ourselves in the mirror. Every facial muscle is an instrument of communication. The face and eyes are the most expressive means of body communication. Dale Leather has found that 10 basic classes of meaning can be communicated by the facial expression. These are happiness, surprise, fear, anger, sadness, disgust, contempt, interest, bewilderment, and the 10th is determination. Next is eye contact. The eyes plays an important role in the face-to-face communication. Eye contact is one of the most powerful forms of non-verbal communication. When we look at somebody's face, we focus primarily on his or her eyes and try to understand what he or she means. The eyes, along with the eyebrows, eyelids, and the size of pupils, convey our innermost feelings. Authority relationships as well as intimate relationships are frequently initiated and maintained with eye contact. Eye contact builds emotional relationship between the listener and the speaker. Eyebrows and eyelids raised and combined with dilated pupils tell us that the person is excited, surprised, or frightened. Eyebrows with upper and lower lids closed and combined with constricted pupils tell us that the person is angry or in pain. Looking at somebody for a long time shows the intensity of our interest in him. If the eye contact is brief or we take our eyes off the person very soon, it indicates nervousness or embarrassment on our part. Prolonged eye contact can signal admiration also. Direct eye contact for more than 10 seconds can create discomfort and anxiety. Generally, people's eye approach what they like and avoid what they do not like. Eye contact between a speaker and audience increases the audience's assessment of the speaker as a credible source. People generally maintain more eye gaze and mutual eye gaze with those whose approval they want, those to whom they bring good news, and those to whom they like. They also do so with people towards whom they feel positive and when they know and trust. Averted eyes show anger, hurt feelings, and a hesitancy to reveal the inner self. They also reveal negativism and the need to increase psychological distance as an elevator, waiting room, or other small spaces. Eye behavior communicates in many ways. It shows emotions. It establishes conversational regulator. It also monitors feedback. It serves as a reminder. The eyes not only supply information, they receive it as well. Major aspects of communications are covered through eyes. Of course, eye contact and eye movements convey their meaning in combination with the facial expressions. Next is gestures. In addition to facial expressions and eye contact, another important element of kinesics is use of gestures. Gestures are the physical movements of arms, legs, hands, torso, and head made to express or help to express thoughts or to emphasize the speech. They play an important role in conveying meaning without using the words. Ekman and Friesen have identified 5 types of body gestures. Emblems. A large number of body movements have come to be identified as a substitute for verbal translation. They often replace verbal messages entirely. Such symbols become emblems. The list is long and comprehensive, and it includes about the 70 of such emblems. A few examples in this regard are as patting the stomach, I am full. Nodding the head up and down, yes, I agree. Patting the adjacent seat means sit beside me. Shaking the fist, I am angry. Yawning, I am bored or I am angry. Cupping the hands behind the ear, I can't hear you. Clapping the hands, I approve. Placing first finger on the lips, that is be silent. Circling the first finger parallel with the side of the head, that is the person is crazy or the person is stupid. Forming the first and second fingers in the shape of a V, that is peace or victory. Shrugging the shoulders and raising the palm of hand upwards, I don't know. Scratching the head for frustration. Tapping the finger against the skull, that means I am thinking. Tapping the finger on the chest, that is me. Standing at side of the road and positioning the thumb in the direction of traffic, or I'd like a ride. Waving the hand, hello, goodbye, come here or here I am. Now, let us take a look at the illustrators. They are directly tied to verbal language. These gestures illustrate the words which a speaker is saying. When a speaker says, my third and final point is, and holds up 3 fingers, this gesture is an illustrator. Regulators. Regulators control oral communication by alerting the sender to the need to hurry up, slow down or repeat something. Examples are frequent glance at the watch or drumming of fingers on the table when someone is talking with the other. When someone is delivering a long speech and the other person wants to restrict him, the other person may show his watch to regulate the other person. Displays. These indicate emotional states such as anger, embarrassment, or usually occur in the facial expression. Display differs from the 3 previous types in that people have for less control over them. Many people, for example, have felt their faces turning red because they were angry or embarrassed. However, there is little which they can do to control the effect display. Adapters. They are the gestures over which people have little control. Frequently, people are not conscious of performing such gestures. Stifling a yawn or clapping the hands to the face in fear are adapter gestures. They are automatic and are not planned. It is important to note that gestures are not used individually but in relation to another person and acquire meaning at particular times. Speech and gestures go together and therefore have to be properly coordinated. In the absence of speech and gesture coordination, we experience confusion and discomfort. Although gestures are spontaneous, we can learn to monitor and use the positive gestures and minimize the negative ones. Positive gestures. Positive gestures are body signals which make us look relaxed, confident and polite. Positive listening gestures include leaning a little towards the speaker, tilting the head, eye contact with the speaker, gently nodding the head in agreement. Good speaking gestures include keeping the hands open, avoid clutching them or folding them across the chest. Walking with the head upright, hands swinging freely by the sides. Negative gestures. Negative gestures include body movements which give a negative impression about us. These are categorized as below. Signs of nervousness. Hands in the pocket, covering the mouth while speaking, scratching, biting the nails, glancing the sideways, drumming fingers, tapping the feet, wringing the hands, crossed arms or legs, setting the hair with the hands, sitting on the edge of the chair, speaking too fast or too slow, straightening the tie, clearing the throat too often, blinking the eyes a lot, clicking the pen, playing with the paper weight, adjusting the glasses up the nose. Now, gestures showing aggressiveness, staring, pointing at someone, showing the fist, folding both arms, or bending over someone. Gestures showing rudeness, shake hands too hard, give a limp handshake, stand too close, whisper at a social gathering, work while someone is talking to you, yawning or smirk, puff, start gathering folding papers before the meeting is over. Gestures showing lack of good sense, banging the table, chewing the pen, waving hands around while you are talking, wiping hands across the face, touching the nose time and again, attending meetings with cell phone, staring, head, body shape and the posture. Head. In any face-to-face communication or meeting or interview, the way we hold our head is very important. Everybody is aware of the age-old saying, hold your head high. It is a sign of honor, self-respect and confidence, integrity and interest in the person or persons before us. A head bent low, depending upon the situation, would show modesty, politeness or quietness. On the other extreme, a head drawn back too far or backwards or stiffly held head straight up indicates pride or haughtiness. Head jerks indicate insolence, rejection, agreement, depending on the context and personality of the person concerned. Nodding the head sideways or back and forth conveys the intended meaning more eloquently than words. The body shape. Behavioral scientists have studied the shapes of bodies and have broadly put them in the following shapes. Ectomorph, thin, youthful and tall. Mesomorph, strong, athletic, muscular and bony. Endomorph, fat, round and soft. We cannot do much about the shape of our body, but we can no doubt put it to effective use. Both our body shape and posture affect what we think about ourselves, how we relate to others and how others relate to us or respond to our moves. Mostly we act spontaneously, whether we meet a friend or participate in a meeting. But we do become self-conscious while appearing for an interview or making a presentation. On such an occasion, we try to make the best possible impression. Posture. A person's general posture, even without specific gestures, communicates a meaning. The body position of an individual conveys variety of messages. In the position of the body or of body parts, for example, superiors usually take a more relaxed posture than the subordinates. Posture is also a way to demonstrate the interest in another person. Several writers have concluded when you lean forward to the person to whom one is speaking with you, you demonstrate interest in that person. Sitting back, on the other hand, may communicate lack of interest. It is difficult to access exactly the meaning of postures. Warren Lamb says that a person's posture and gesture can tell much about how effectively the person will perform in an organization. Appearance. Appearance for our purpose includes clothing, hair, jewelry, cosmetics, etc. All these may seem unrelated to the body language, but on having a closer look, we find that they are very meaningfully related to our face, eyes, gestures, etc. A famous writer has said that a man is recognized by his dress and address. Dress does not need any explanation. By address, he means the way a person speaks to others. Every occasion has its own particular type of dress. It may be formal or informal. It is normally a part of an organization's work rules to have a formal suit for the working hours. Certain organizations have a uniform for all levels of workers. If one changes from the formal dress to informal or casual, he is easily noticed and his dress speaks volumes about his attitude to life, to work and his colleagues and his own feelings. It is not just the dress or clothes that are important for any occasion, but also shoes, hairstyles, perfumes, etc. that convey the meaning in non-verbal form. Proxemics or space language and surroundings. Just as kinesics is the study of body language, proxemics is the study of how we communicate with the space around us. Proxemics is made from proximity, which means nearness, and includes the space around us and our physical environment and surroundings. It is complicated matter indeed, but in order to make our communication effective, we must take all these factors into account and put them to the best possible use. Scientific studies have been made in respect of all these factors separately as well as how they influence each other. An organization or individual critically influenced due to communication can draw great benefits from the findings of these studies. Space language. The space around its contents and us convey a definite meaning. Of course, it requires quite some efforts on our part to arrange them meaningfully and on the part of others to understand or interpret the meaning. In other words, it tells that how people communicate with the space, how close or far they stand in relation to another person, whether they sit in a room or how they arrange the office furniture, which has a real impact on communication. One of the major writers on this type of communication is anthropologist Edward T. Hall. He has identified three major types of spaces: feature fixed space, semi-fixed feature space, and personal space. Feature fixed space. Feature fixed space refers to the buildings and other fairly permanent structures such as walls. The manner in which buildings are laid out and the sequence of rooms and offices have a considerable influence on communication. The person will probably communicate more with those individuals whose offices are closer to his own rather than with those further from him. There are evidences which reveal that bigger the fixed place, the higher will be the status of the individual in an organization. Semi-fixed feature space. The placement and arrangement of movable objects such as desks and chairs is referred to as semi-fixed feature space. Currently, a great deal of emphasis is placed on how business offices are arranged. In addition, the quality of furniture has considerable influence on the status of individuals, and this is clearly communicated non-verbally. Frequently, the superior person will come from behind the desk and his face to face with the subordinate to make it easier to communicate. Personal space. Our interaction with the people around us has rather a well-defined and well-understood spatial dimension. Conversely, we can say that the spatial dimension or distance between us and other people tell us something more important about our relations and the nature of our communication with them. This branch of proxemics has come to be regarded as personal space language. Edward T. Hall has done very useful and interesting work in this area. Placing ourselves in the center, we can present the space around us in the form of the following concentric circles. Intimate zone, physical contact or touch to 18 inches. Personal zone, 18 inches to the 4 feet. Social zone, from 4 feet to the 12 feet. The public zone, 12 feet to as far as we can see or hear. Intimate distance or zone. This ranges from the actual physical contact to about 18 inches from another person. Communication and interaction within this distance are intimate activities. Mostly only for our family members, closest friends and selected people enter this area. Those selected people are indeed special people, whatever the reasons for their special status. It has special significance for our communication with these people. In the language used within this small, intimate and perhaps private circle, not many words are used. In organizations, Confidential information is often communicated with the intimate distance. When two friends meet each other after a long gap, they hug each other. Eye contact, handshakes, pat on the shoulder or back is quite noticeable. The major form of intimate contact in business organization is, of course, the handshake. Most people respond positively to men who give a firm handshake. Personal distance or the zone. This ranged from the 18-inch to the 4 feet. Interaction in this zone includes causes and friendly conversations, including conversation with close friends, colleagues, associates, and visitors. Here we raise about the close circle of intimacy around us. Although communication in this circle is also mostly personal in nature, it is relaxed and casual for most of the time. It permits spontaneous, unprogrammed talking or discussion. However, certain important decisions may be taken in this circle. The social distance or the zone. It ranges from 4 feet to about 12 feet and has very aptly been called the social space. We use this space mostly for formal purposes and the relationship within this circle are more official. We do most of our business within this area, while feelings, emotions, shared likes and dislikes may come up in this intimate and personal space. More reasons and planning are used in the social space. It is therefore of paramount importance in businesses. Most of the communication in organization is done in the social zone. Public distance or the zone. It ranges from 12 feet to the limits of visibility or hearing. Communication at public distance is considered in public speaking. A good deal of communication within and outside an organization takes place at this range. We can very well imagine the nature of communication or speaking in this space becomes even more formal. The attachment of the intimate and personal space is substituted by the detachment of perception, objectivity of the approach and formality of communication or speaking. We have to raise our voices so as to be heard by others who are in the group is almost always larger in the space. That is why it has been called the public space. Space use. Proxemics is also concerned with the use of space by the group of people. The ways group of people use the space assigned to them determines their respective places and their interaction patterns. For example, people who begin conversation and those seated in the front are usually considered leaders of the group. If the same people are seated in the row of their communication pattern will be of a different nature. People seated around or over the table, they are most likely communicate in the form of a conference. Everyone is aware of some type of the way space is used to communicate in business organizations. Experts have identified 3 basic principles about the use of space as it relates to the status within the organization. For higher status people in the organization, more and better quality space is allotted. In many organizations, the president has the most attractive office, while the vice president, the departmental heads and lower level employees have succeeding smaller offices. The number of windows in the office and the way the office is furnished are also communicates with rank of position. This is clearly evident that better the quality place, the higher will be the position or status of the individual. The higher people in the organizations are being protected within their territory. Their territories are closed. Many times, the more status a person has in the organization, the more difficult it is to see that person. Outer offices and secretaries often are used to protect the high status person. Even gates are manned with security people of such people. For higher people in the organization, it is easier to invade the territory of the lower status personnel. The superiors usually can enter the subordinates' office at will. The superiors also has the ability to phone the subordinate almost at any time. This is a privilege. However, the subordinate usually does not have this access to the supervisors. Surroundings. Our surroundings or physical environment speak their own non-verbal language. It is a vast area. It is therefore worthwhile to cover only two important aspects of our physical context, color and the layout or design for the purpose of non-verbal communication. Through our sensory perceptions, we may get meanings from our surroundings. In the same way as through our choice of color and design, we send out a definite signal to others. Colors. Most of us know that different colors are associated with different behavior patterns, attitudes, and cultural backgrounds. People make serious efforts to choose the right color for any significant movement, and indifference to choice of color is regarded as lack of cultivation. Some colors are universally known to be associated with gaiety, cheerfulness, or present circumstances. Pink, yellow, red, purple, blue, green as gay colors. Black and grey, on the other hand, are associated with negative feelings, melancholy, or somber mood. White is generally associated with purity or peace. All this shows that there exists what we may call a color language. For successful communication, it is important to have the right choice of colors of our clothing, home and office interiors, and upholstery and decoration pieces. Layout and design. Like color language, there is also a layout and design language as a part of non-verbal communication. The space arrangement of an office, carpeting or its absence, the furniture and its design, everything conveys a meaning. Everybody is impressed by a tastefully furnished office. The layout of a lobby or dining hall, conference room, reception desk, etc. It is for this very reason that so much attention is being paid to the architecture and furnishing of offices, hotels, houses of executives in modern time durations. All this is aimed at conveying the mood, personality, outlook and vision of the organization. Behind all this is the vision of a successful communicator. Time language. Time language is another type of non-verbal communication. In it, we communicate with others in terms of time by showing them in our own cultural way what time means to us. We do this mostly by symbolizing time and by sending out signals regarding the importance of time and so on. This is in connection, it is important to note that time management is now one of the most important parts of overall management. Business community all over the world knows the worth of time. It has been pointed out that scientific managers of the late 1800s equated the worth of time with money, and then we are reminded repeatedly that time is money. It is this consciousness of the worth or importance of time and its crucial role in the productivity that has led to the invention of many time-saving devices. In fact, time pervades our thinking and dominates our communication. All communication is meant to be suitably timed. We get or send out covert signals about whether anybody or anything is early or late. While people in the West are very much time conscious and attach highest importance to punctuality, people in the East have a more relaxed attitude. The way we use and structure time can send intentional and unintentional messages about what or how we value and whom we consider important. This is called chromatics. Paralanguage. Close to actual verb or oral communication and always accompanying body language is paralanguage. It is non-verbal because it does not comprises of words, but without it, words do not convey their intended meaning. Para means like. Hence, paralanguage literally means the language, and the paralinguistic is the systematic study of how a speaker verbalizes his word or speech. It is defined as a type of non-verbal communication that includes articulation, pronunciation, rate, pitch, volume, pauses, and other vocal qualities. While verbal communication consists of what or the contents of words, paralanguage includes the how of a speaker's voice and the way in which the speaker speaks. On careful observation and analysis, we find that a speaker intentionally as well as unintentionally uses a vast range of hints and signals. If someone asks his friends to go to a movie or to a particular restaurant for dinner, one must respond, "Yes, I would love to go." But let this tone of voice betray his words and convey that he has little or no interest in going. The reaction of his friend to the response will communicate the message is right direction. At times, people mean to communicate a particular message through the use of paralanguage. For example, the phrase "I would like to help you" can convey several meanings depending on the paralanguage employed. By changing the emphasis on each of the words of this sentence, different meaning may be drawn. Advantages of paralanguages. The major function of paralanguage is to express emotions. Several researchers have demonstrated that it is impossible to communicate without various emotions solely with paralanguage. In a foundation study, actors who read even a small text made sure that the meaning communicated were solely the result of vocal cues rather than the vocabulary. Paralanguage is very closely allied to language. No oral message is complete without it. Paralanguage is a sufficiently dependable indicator of the speaker's place in an organization. On the basis of his voice quality, one can easily guess his position in the hierarchy. Paralanguage tells us quite clearly about the speaker's educational background. Paralanguage speaks volumes about the speaker's national and regional background. This information is of immense use to the receiver and organization in dealing with him. Paralanguage gives us useful clues regarding the speaker's mental status. His voice quality, intonations, and speaking speed make it easy for the receiver of the message how best to deal with him. Paralanguage has important educational value. A careful listener can learn from an effective speaker. Limitations of paralanguage. A paralanguage is like language but not a language. It is a non-verbal part of communication. It therefore cannot be fully relied upon. What is said and how it is said must be blended, but very often it does not happen. It therefore requires extra care to get to the exact content of the message. The voice quality and pitch of the speaker may unnecessarily prejudice the receiver of the message. The listener or the receiver of the message has therefore to be very open-minded and patient. Paralanguage sometimes misguided or misled as there may be differences in the speech and the intention behind the speech. As speakers belong to different speech communities, it is difficult to achieve the uniformity in oral communication. The sign language. Communication is a process involving the use of mutually understood signs or symbols between the sender and the receiver of a message or piece of information. Language is the most sophisticated or systematic set of symbols. The evolution of any language takes a long time, normally running in centuries. But communication has always been taking place. From the time immemorial, man has been using signs and symbols mutually understood between at least two persons and more usually among people belonging to a group or tribe or trade. These signs, symbols, signals and indicators have generally been of two types: visual and audio or sound signals. Smell, touch and taste also communicate because sensory perceptions and impressions are a necessary part of human existence. But the most important, powerful or effective of them is the visual element. That is why we have the Chinese proverb, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The reason is that we take much of our information, more than 50%, through the gateway of our eyes. Visual signs. Regarding the importance of visual element in communication, Lessiker and Petit say, as we know from our study of communication theory, words are imprecise conveyors of meaning. Thus, it is little wonder that we frequently have difficulty communicating through words. You will need to use picture of some kind to help communicate your information. How effectively pictures communicate becomes clear from the paintings, murals and engravings found on the walls of ancient caves, temples and such other buildings. They tell us a lot about the tribes or races or rulers or traders, their religion, their hunting or other adventurous deeds, their art and so on. Their symbolic and communicative value has been a subject of various studies. The tradition of drawing pictures for communicative purpose continues. Posters and pictures, big or small, real-life drawings as well as cartoons, caricatures, statues and effigies are freely used for general information as also for business purposes. Everybody is familiar with the picture of ghastly skeletal paws symbolizing the deadly grip of drugs and so on. Maps and diagrams are an essential part of a book of geography, science, economics and history in the same way as no pamphlet of tourism and hotel industry, oil refinery or motor company is complete without a nice looking colorful photograph. In the same way, lights green or red at traffic points, railway stations and airports, a red bulb outside the operation theatre of an hospital, a neon hoarding, a revolving light on top of a VIP vehicle or an ambulance serve their purpose very effectively without using the words. Lights are also used to indicate whether somebody is in or out to mark the celebration of a special occasion. Colors of flag, white or black, and the colors of flowers in a vase or a bouquet speak volumes about the feelings of the communicator. Many of these drawings and photographs have a local or somewhat limited appeal in the sense that at a time only a picture or particular section of people will be interested in them. But a very much larger number of signs and symbols speak a universal language understood by anybody, anywhere. Audio or the sound signals. Side by side with the visuals signals, audio or sound signals have also been in the use since the very beginning of civilization and have very conveniently been adopted by the world of business. Different kinds of drum beat were used by people living in the jungles in the olden times, as we are told in our history and geography books. But drum beating is very much in use in the modern times also to convey or share different kinds of feelings on different occasions or celebrations. In one way or another, drum beating is essential part of many communicating cultures. Its immediate impact is to arouse and gather the hearers. Closely allied to drum beats so far as volume is concerned are the alarm signals. There are various kinds of alarm signals: fire alarms, accident, casualty alarm, air raid or assault alarms, VIP motor parade alarms, machine breakdown alarm and so on. Various kinds of sirens, hooters, whistlers, etc. are used for these purposes. The main idea is to caution the listener and take the right step. Blowing a horn serves a similar purpose. A clock or a watch alarm makes us aware of the time and program our schedule. No office is complete without a buzzer, press button bell, electrically operated bell, and any other such sound signaling systems. They put the concerned people on alert, send out signals whether a visitor is welcome or whether it is time to leave. Touch. This mode of communication is our earliest means of making contacts with others. It is actually become essential to human development. Babies and children need to be touched in order to grow, flourish, and avoid numerous health problems. Touch even seems to improve a child's mental functioning as well as physical health. In our life, touch plays an important role in how we respond to others and to our environment, and it can communicate many messages. When we appreciate someone, we pat on his back. Parents and elders bless their younger ones by touching the head. Younger people express respect by touching the feet of elderly people. By shaking hands, we show our warmth and affection to each other. When two friends, after a long gap, hug each other, it often shows their warmth and affection. Touching can show tenderness, affection, encouragement, and the full range of emotion. The infant begins its communicative life largely through the sense of touch. As the baby is hugged, kissed, cradled, cuddled, and stroked, human exchange being to unfold. Psychologists contend that the denial of extensive touching can have untold effect or negative impact on the infant's development. Touching actions serve as regulators. They act as both conveyors and elicitors of positive as well as negative feelings. Touching conveys the total range from the highly impersonal to highly personal meanings. The touch will be of four major types. Intimate touch. A child and the mother usually touch to each other to show affection. Two friends or brothers meet each other after a long gap is also an intimate touch. Friendly touch. When two people meet, they touch their shoulders and back to show their warmth, and this is a friendly touch. The professional touch. Doctor examines the patients by touching. Surgeons operate their patients. The social touch. Handshake is one of the most commonest form of this kind of touch. When a teacher touches his students to encourage him, it is a social touch. By touching the head of younger ones, blessings are bestowed by the elder ones. Advantages of sign language. Visual signals like pictures, photographs, etc. economize on verbal communications. What cannot be said in so many words can be easily conveyed in visual terms. Colorful paintings, photographs, posters, etc. make communication interesting and motivate the receiver of the message. They are also a reflection of the mental makeup, intelligence level, cultural backgrounds of the communicator. Poster paintings, illustrations, etc. have an educational value. Whenever the worker are illiterate, posters, etc. go a long way to educate them and give them instruction in the various operations of machines, adopting safety measures, maintaining cleanliness, and so on. Posters are a very effective means of advertising too. They immediately attract the attention of the public or potential buyers. Sound signals are very quick in conveying the intended message. For example, the ringing of bell or the hooting of a siren makes the worker active, both in reporting for the duty, winding up the day's work, or to take safety measures. Sound signals are very useful in time management. One can always plan one's day on the basis of time signals. Use of buzzers and such other devices streamlines the working of the organization by regulating visiting hours, giving adequate waiting time to the visitors, and breathing time to the managers. Limitations of sign language. Sign language, whether using visual signs or audio or sound signals, can communicate only elementary and simple ideas. Any complications or skews in ideas can hardly be conveyed through posters or pictures. It is not only at all easy to draw effective pictures, it requires great skills on the part of the artist to be able to get the exact idea. Sign language can be effective in combination with the verbal communication. Sign language is quite likely to be misunderstood. The receiver of the message has to be in a proper frame of mind to decode the message or information conveyed by visual or sound language. While in verbal communication, spot correction is very easy, it is not so in the sign language. It is generally not easy to repeat, retract or improve upon the signals or signs. Non-verbal communication is very important than verbal communication. People try to understand more about the non-verbal communication. Researchers have found that even in a spoken message, the listener perceives non-verbal communication as a more important than the words. Now, more and more writers on the subject of business communication are stressing the importance of non-verbal communication. I hope you understood this session. Thank you.